What's the strangest base commander tradition that everyone just accepted? Colonel Davis had this bizarre weekly ritual where every single soldier from private to sergeant major had to schedule a 5-minute appointment to tell him their biggest complaint about the base. Not suggestions, not requests, complaints. And here's the weird part. He never responded, never took notes, never asked follow-up questions, just sat there, listened, nodded once, and dismissed you. I first experienced this during my second week at Fort Carson. My squad leader Mike told me to report to the commander's office Thursday at 14:30 hours. No explanation, just go complain about something. I figured it was some kind of test. Maybe he wanted to see if new soldiers would be respectful or if we'd actually criticize the base. So I prepared this careful, diplomatic complaint about the gym being overcrowded. Walked into his office, stood at attention. He looked up from his paperwork. What's your complaint, soldier? Sir, the fitness center gets extremely crowded between 1700 and 1900 hours. Sometimes soldiers can't complete their PT requirements due to equipment availability. He stared at me for about 10 seconds. Nodded once. That's all. Dismissed. I left completely confused. What was the point? Over the next few months, I watched this happen with everyone. Guys complained about everything imaginable. Bad food, broken air conditioning, inadequate parking, slow internet, uncomfortable beds, outdated equipment. The colonel just listened to each complaint with the same blank expression. Never wrote anything down, never promised fixes, never explained why he was doing this. Soldiers started getting creative. Jake from my unit complained that the PX didn't sell his favorite candy bar. Sarah from communications complained that the base newspaper was boring. Tom from maintenance complained that the grass was too green and hurt his eyes. Still nothing. The colonel absorbed every ridiculous complaint with perfect seriousness. It became this weird game. Who could come up with the most absurd complaint that he'd still listen to without reacting? 6 months in, I was getting frustrated. This tradition seemed like a massive waste of everyone's time. I decided to ask him directly, scheduled my appointment, and walked in prepared for confrontation. Sir, my complaint is about these weekly complaint meetings. I don't understand their purpose, and they seem inefficient. For the first time ever, he smiled, took out a thick folder from his desk drawer, opened it up. Pages and pages of handwritten notes. Every complaint, cataloged by date and frequency. Private Stevens, in the past 6 months, 247 soldiers have complained about gym overcrowding, 156 about food quality, 89 about parking, 67 about internet speed. He flipped through more pages. Your candy bar complaint appears 23 times from different soldiers. The boring newspaper complaint shows up 34 times. Even the grass color complaint has been mentioned 8 times. I was shocked. He'd been recording everything mentally, writing it down after each session. But why the secrecy? He stood up, walked to his window. When soldiers think their complaints disappear into a void, they tell the truth. The moment I start responding or taking visible notes, they start telling me what they think I want to hear. This system gives me pure, unfiltered data about what actually bothers my soldiers. Not what they think should bother them, but what genuinely affects their daily lives. Over the next month, everything started changing. Gym hours extended, new food service provider, additional parking constructed, internet infrastructure upgraded. Even the PX started carrying that specific candy bar. But here's the brilliant part. He never announced the changes were based on complaints, just made improvements and let soldiers think it was coincidence or routine maintenance. Morale shot through the roof. Soldiers started believing their command actually cared about their welfare without realizing their complaints had directly caused every improvement. The tradition continued, but complaints shifted. Instead of basic needs, soldiers started mentioning smaller quality of life issues. The colonel addressed those too, always quietly, always without fanfare. 2 years later, our base had the highest retention rate in the entire division. Soldiers were requesting transfers to our unit instead of away from it. During his change of command ceremony, Colonel Davis finally explained this system to everyone. Soldiers were amazed to learn their complaints had shaped every policy change for the past 3 years. His replacement tried to continue the tradition but made the mistake of taking visible notes during meetings. Within 2 weeks, complaints became generic suggestions about training schedules and professional development. The honesty disappeared. Last month, I got orders to a new base. During my final complaint session with Colonel Davis, I told him his replacement wasn't getting the same quality feedback. He pulled out that same thick folder, now completely full. Every commander has to develop their own system, he said, closing the folder. Mine worked because soldiers trusted that their complaints would be heard but not held against them. That trust took 2 years to build and 5 minutes to destroy.